What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be breaking down everything that you need to know about today's Nintendo Direct, from the time length to what you can expect to be there, some of the stuff that Nintendo said, when you can watch it, links, times, everything. We've got it right here in this video. I'll also be going over my big things that I want to see during the show. I have a few different things that I want to talk about here, but let's first start off with the show itself. So Nintendo recently announced there will be a roughly 50-minute Nintendo Direct today, February 17th, 2021 at 2 p.m. Pacific time. That is 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, if you live overseas, please make sure you check out the link in the description below and see your time. And to how it relates to where you are in the world, there's a very easy time converter that you can use in order to see when 2 p.m. PT is, or 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's very easy to do so please make sure you check that if you live overseas. And of course, if you live here in the United States, 2 p.m. Pacific time, that is 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, here's the thing with this, guys. I will be streaming, okay? Nintendo will have links. They already have them up for the US. They have them up, I think, for Japan and maybe even Europe. So they have that up everywhere, but I will be streaming a pre-show myself. So if you want to come hang out with me before the show starts and even during the show, make sure you tune in here. We'll be going live with a minimum of about 2 hours before the show. So that's going to be around maybe 12 p.m. PT or so, which would be 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be going live here, breaking down you guys' predictions, what you guys want to see, what you think will happen, and everything else. We recently had a live stream where a ton of you guys came out. We had hundreds of people in there talking about the predictions and everything, and it was a lot of fun. So I'd love to see a lot of you guys that watch my regular videos out to my live streams as well in order to talk about different things. And of course, you can put your predictions and what you think you're going to see in the chat, and we know the time. So if you guys come here after the Direct and start trying to put stuff, we'll all know. You can't cheat the system here. So it should be a lot of fun, though. I'm really excited to talk about this Nintendo Direct and what's going on. So once again, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, right here on PlayerEssence. We'll be streaming a pre-show that will be at least 2 hours before the main show. With a minimum of 2, we might go even earlier than that. Nintendo seems to be gearing up for something massive here, guys, because already they have the links live on their YouTube channels and everything. Like, you can go there and there's like 10,000 plus people waiting for that Nintendo Direct. So this is definitely going to be one of the most viewed Directs of all time, because there's been tons of anticipation for this Nintendo Direct. It's been well more than a year since our last Nintendo Direct because of the pandemic and because Nintendo had to safeguard their employees and of course work with other third-party developers to kind of get things under control and not have any delays with their software and just have a stable lineup in terms of when they know their games are going to come. So now that that is stabilized, Nintendo Directs are back, and of course things should stay fairly consistent just as long as things don't take a turn for the worst when it comes to the health of their employees or any other type of things to do with the virus. But I'm actually ridiculously excited to see things kind of somewhat get back to normal when it comes to life and when it comes to Nintendo Directs and when it comes to all of this. So let's talk about some of this stuff that we can see at the Nintendo Direct. So Nintendo did state that there will be a new Super Smash Brothers information there. So people are already anticipating that there's going to be a brand new character. And yes, I think they will reveal the new character. I don't think that character will be ready to go at this point, but they'll definitely reveal the new character, or at least talk about the franchise the character is from, like they did with the ARMS character. I think it was a while back. So I think they will do that. Now, another thing that I think that they're going to do with this, because they said information on current available games, and just do games that are coming in the first half of 2021. So I think that we could see maybe DLC for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. There was data mines that there could be DLC in that game. So that's another game that's been doing extremely well, and I think that we could see DLC for that. There's always the possibility, because of the leak, that we see some information on a new Fire Emblem game, or at least new DLC for Fire Emblem Three Houses, or new content in some way, shape, or form, because of that Fire Emblem Heroes presentation where it showed a different outfit. Could have just been a mistake, but it also could have been something that they leaked a little bit too early when it comes to outfits or something for Fire Emblem, which would lead people to believe that there's some more information on Fire Emblem, and maybe there's a game coming sooner than later, because they like to launch those Fire Emblem games sometimes in the early spring or so. That was the original date that Fire Emblem 3 Houses was supposed to come out before it got pushed to summer. It was supposed to be a spring 2019 title. Also, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, that was also a spring title as well. So maybe it's going to be an Echoes title that comes out this spring, which would line up in the first half of this year. So here's the thing about Nintendo when it comes to directs and what they say beforehand. They don't want to tip their hand, so often they'll say what the direct will be focused on. So of course, 2021 first half games, but often they went outside of what they said it will be focused on. Now, I'm not sitting there and saying that they're going to announce their whole lineup for the rest of the year, because they're not. They're probably going to have more direct, or they're going to have at least one more direct in the year. So we are going to get announcements later, but sometimes Nintendo will say, oh, well, we're only going to have this, and it ends up being outside of what they said. And that could be the case here. They said first half of 2021 games, but they could maybe tease something else or talk about something else. They just said it's going to mainly be, it's going to be focused on the Smash Brothers announcement, and it's also going to be on the first half of 2021. So expect to see a lot of the games that we've already seen before, No More Heroes and stuff like I talked about in my video yesterday with my predictions. So another game that we could see for 2021 that hasn't been talked about yet at this point is a 2D Metroid. I think that's a game that's more ready than not being ready, and has been in development for a while, ever since Metroid Samus Returns wrapped up on the Nintendo 3DS. I think Mercury Steam is working on it, and I think that we could see that game in the first half of 2021, especially with the wait for Metroid Prime 4. But let's get into my big things in this Nintendo Direct that I don't think are necessarily coming in the first half, but Nintendo could hint, or they could show off the first teaser or something about, or more information if we already know about the game. First up is Monolith Soft's new IP and Xenoblade Chronicles X. I think that Xenoblade Chronicles X could be a first half port for 2021. That's something that people have wanted. I think they've already finished Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. That was done as of last year. They had plenty of time that they weren't already working on it. So that is a game that I think that could come. And I think that is probably the last big or major Wii U game that people want to see come over. Yes, there's other stuff. I get it. There's Fatal Frame, there's Star Fox Zero, there's other Wii U games on there, right? But I think that Xenoblade Chronicles X is the last major one, with the recent port of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. That's pretty much the last big one left that people really want to see, that's highly ranked and everything. So I think we might get that in the first half. And then of course a tease at their next new IP. Now, and I talked about this a little bit in my predictions video, so I do think that if you want to see more in terms of what I have to say, and also I talked about this in various other videos, but I think that it's time. Like, Monolith Soft has been working on this new IP. They've been hiring for this new IP. We have not gotten it, right? And they've been working on this for quite some time. It looks like this is going to be a little bit of a change up from what they normally do. If it's going to be a new IP, or they take the Xenoblade franchise in a new direction, something is different from this new title that they're working on, based on their hirings and based on what they just basically said, the vibes that I'm getting. So could we see the first tease of that? I think it's very, very possible that we do see that. And I personally would love to see that. Now, the next major thing that I want to see is Bayonetta 3. I talked about this in my predictions video, and I've talked about it in various other videos. This game, I think, is going to be coming 2021. I don't think it's going to be a first half game. I think that it might be something that's going to be second half, but I think they're going to show the first gameplay trailer for it, show off what the game is about and why it's different from the previous games. This isn't going to be a typical Bayonetta game. This isn't going to be a Devil May Cry style of game. This is going to be something a little bit different, something a little bit new, and something that Platinum Games hasn't done before with the Bayonetta franchise. I don't think it's going to be Bayonetta 2.5. I don't think it's going to be an extension of the first Bayonetta game. I don't think it's going to be a hybrid between 1 and 2. I think it's going to be something different that we haven't quite played before, but has familiar ties back to Bayonetta 1 and 2 when it comes to combat and gameplay. So to me, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they show off if they do show off the game. Now, there's always a possibility that it doesn't show up and we get it at like a E3 presentation or something like that, and I'd be completely fine with that. I just think it's time. I just think that it's been multiple years now, and I think that Hideki Kamiya and the team really wants to show it off, and I think Nintendo wants to as well, but you're gonna have to put this game in the best light possible, and I think that first impressions are very important, especially if you're doing something different. If this was a Bayonetta 2.5, I think they would have already shown it at this point, but I think it's something that's different, that's going to take people by surprise, so they're waiting just for the right time, and this just might be that. Now, last up, I do want to talk just briefly about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 and what I think we can see there. We have the Zelda 35th anniversary, so it's very much possible that we don't get anything on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Nintendo waits to have a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild anniversary direct. I mean, that could be a thing. I know that they did that with Mario. I mean, it's possible with it, but I also think it's possible to segment a time at the end of the stream, maybe 7, 8, 9 minutes, whatever the case is, 10 minutes of completely dedicated to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and the 35th anniversary. Maybe they show us, okay, you're going to be able to pick up The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. You're going to be able to pick up Twilight Princess double pack or individual for this price, this date. Here you go. It's going to have these enhancements. Enjoy HD Rumble, all that good stuff right there on the Nintendo Switch. That is going to be big. I know people think old games, and I get it. Yes, they've been re-released multiple times, but having those type of games on a hybrid system is going to be pretty nice for Zelda fans, and a lot of Nintendo fans obviously skipped the Wii U, so they didn't get a chance to play the HD versions of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. So there you go on that. But I also think that we're going to get the first gameplay of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. I think that's very possible. They show off a short gameplay trailer showing off what they're adding, the additions, enhancements to this game. I don't think they're going to go full bore on it, okay? I don't think they're going to go full bore, but it's been a couple years now since they last showed it. They showed that game in 2019. I think they're definitely due, especially with this year being the 35th anniversary, to show off something with this game. But I don't think it's going to be released in the first half. I think it's going to be a fall holiday title, and I think they're going to show off some new hardware, some type of revision with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. So that's going to be later, but I think that they might just show the first teaser of what you can expect in the game, or maybe the theme of the game as well, because all we got is that E3 2019 trailer, which they didn't even really need to show that because E3 that year was already stacked, but they did, and it completely caught me by surprise that we already got an announcement for a follow-up to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because the game was a little bit over 2 years old at the time that they showed that, so nobody was expecting that. So I think that this might be something very, very, very interesting here with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because of the Wildcard 35th anniversary. But those are my thoughts and what I want to see. I'm honestly thinking this is the return of the Nintendo Directs. This might be the most watched Direct of all time. This could be one of the best Directs of all time if all the different cards that are laid out there played right, because they took a whole year off. Obviously, they didn't show a lot of the games that are big that we do know about. There was no Metroid Prime 4, so that could be there. There was no Bayonetta anywhere last year, right? There was no Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild anywhere last year. So they've had time to develop their games and kind of get the development cycles in line with big reveals for this year. So I talked about this in one of my videos previously, where I talked about how 2021 could be a huge year for Nintendo, just laying out all the different third-party games that we already know about, and it's definitely stacking up to be just that. So what are you guys' thoughts on all of this? What are your predictions? What are the big 3 things that you want to see here? And of course, make sure you guys check out my stream for the Nintendo Direct. I will be streaming it right here on PlayerEssence. It's going to be right around 2 hours before the show starts. The show starts at 2 p.m. PT. That is 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be starting up the stream a couple hours earlier than that to get everybody hyped and ready to go. So I do appreciate everybody who does join me to watch the show. So what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you for the next one. Peace.